Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Sam Zagar. I'm hopping into another YouTube reading, of course. This one is for a 3-6 emotional generator. Let's get the body graph up on the screen. Intake form. Are you having a problem you need help with? I've worked as a somatics/trauma healing facilitator for the last 5 years and have worked on starting a business around that ever since. This hasn't taken off yet, but during the times I've been able to focus on it, it's felt amazing. I've come to refuse to do many things that I don't like, and my financial situation has been very tight for the past few years. Okay, right off the bat, I'm just going to acknowledge I've come to refuse to do many things I don't like. This is a sacral win. This is a good sign. What is your biggest question? How can I generate more than enough money by just being myself? More than enough. Okay, curious. How can I generate more than enough money by just being myself? The answer that's always popped into my head is just start sharing. I'm also curious about this, just popped into your head. I am not going to be super literal about popped into your head, especially because, like, let's say, look at the head center. It's 61, which would be individual circuitry, empowerment, not a keynote of sharing. That's probably irrelevant to everything. I'm just like, let's stay out of the head. I'm going to take this as a general phrase. It's like, my inner guidance is telling me, just start sharing. My inner guidance is telling me, just start sharing. Whether inner guidance is source, God, your response, you as God, your response showing you what is like godly for, whatever. Wherever your inner intuitive messaging is coming from that feels correct for you to follow, I tend to think that it is, especially when they are really simplistic messages, like just start sharing. I want to lean into that one a little bit more. I'm going to lean into that actually quite specifically because of the channel of concentration, collective circuitry, keynote of sharing, and channel of recognition, collective circuitry, keynote of sharing. What else are you curious about? Whenever I listen to different aspects of my HD, the theme of being and sharing stands out to me and feels very true and correct. Being and sharing. Being really has this quality of, like, be yourself, and the sacral being is here to know who they are. Be yourself, respond as yourself, and share about your experiences. Again, concentration, collective, sharing, but collective logical. So things need to be tested, proven, and they're also somewhat predictable. Whereas with channel of recognition, we are collective abstract. So these are things that don't tend to make sense until after the fact. Not exactly things we're trying to prove, more like things we're trying to experience, which really gives me a quality of like past and future and trying to predict past and future. There's a little bit of a like, I'm going to be able to try and control how that one turns out, but this one, there is no control in how this one turns out. This one's much more about managing expectations. We have a hope crash emotional wave going on. Anything else you need me to know? Last 6 years have been the hardest of my life. How old are they? This feels relevant. 31. 31 is young. Okay, 31 is young. Last 6 years have been the hardest of my life. From 25 to 31, and that includes Saturn return. Okay, yeah, I'm buying it. I'm finally moving away from a bad rental situation with an ex in a big city, which is clearly not the market and vibe for me. I'm moving to the region of my childhood dreams with like little hopeful face. This gives me hope that there is a more peaceful chapter coming and that I can finally focus more on the things I truly love. I want to point out a couple of things in the intake form. They're not doing things that don't feel good for them anymore. They're finally moving away from something. So I'm hearing like a minimizing of the things that were no longer good for them, things they needed to let go, things that they didn't have a response for, things they finally found clarity on. Quite a few different reasons why to make a shift. Something didn't work. It's time to start over, so to speak. And this is interesting with a quad, right? So we've got to do without doing, and the doing gets done. So somehow the doing is being done for you a little bit. Let's tune into some of that intuitive guidance again. Just start sharing. I want to play with what felt like past and future stuff a little bit because, what are you supposed to share? That's always one of the questions. Like, okay, just start sharing. Share what? Okay. You are a 3-6 profile. Let's acknowledge that. I'm a 3-6 profile, so I'm definitely like, I can relate, obviously. That conscious third line life is a doozy, you know? So funny. I say it's a doozy, and then sometimes in the comment section, people are like, that's disempowering. I'm like, doozies are doozies, man. Sometimes they happen. Being a 3-6, doozy, okay? Because being a 3-6 or a 6-3, we're the only profiles that have to live the first 30 years of our life in this double third line martyr phase. It's challenging, okay? And to tell people it's a doozy is not disempowering. It's like, we do become the empowerment when we make it through our trials and eventually stop failing. Like, the martyr is not supposed to fail constantly. The martyr is meant to figure out what didn't work. So what's curious to me is, what did you figure out doesn't work? What doesn't work for you? So that would be a really good question for recognition, for your channel of recognition, for your emotional authority, for the collective channel that is abstract and only makes sense when it's processed after the fact. So what do you need to be processing? And curiously, that you asked for this reading while 36 is on in the nodes, which means through transits you are completing the entire human experiential way. And you're finally moving. Ooh, this is great, because once we give that 36, there's a little bit more of a manifested component going on. You have, root all the way up to throat. And so the idea that you are now able to articulate more clearly what you want, where you want to go. And of course, I am going to acknowledge that it's like, oh, I'm finally feeling the hope. The hope in many ways is like the high or the optimistic side of your emotional wave, which in a way you're kind of doubling down on, because through transits you have the channel of transitoriness turned on. I think that these transits are all coming together right now to help you with what transition you're going through. You said that where you were was not the market for you. My guess is that means that you were not meeting the correct forces, and honestly, probably not even eating that well, because you're alternating single ingredient. So where were you able to shop for the things that you really liked? And good chance you don't like cooking that much. A lot of people I know, I think it's pretty reasonable to expect that a quadrite is not going to be that interested in cooking. I think a quadrite is going to be a lot more interested in eating, like absorbing, receiving, taking in. I think they are more interested in watching someone else cook, having someone else cook for them. I mean, the hilarious thing is, it's not like I'm the opposite as a quad left. I don't know, cooking isn't particularly where I care to put my energy, because, again, I'm first color. Like, we're not the most creative eaters, because when it's that simple, like, it kills so much of the creativity in it. I'm fine with, like, just the chicken breast or what. Okay, so maybe you don't mind cooking because your cooking is like my cooking, and it's like snacks. It's like basically nonstop single ingredient snacks. I don't know. How have you been eating? What did you have access to? What would you prefer to eat? Oh, I like that you were innocence motivation with acceptance sense. 6-6. That means, okay, that helps a little bit. I think the innocence with the acceptance sense gives a little bit more power to the 6th line body, and probably lessens some of the, let's call it the 3rd line tragedies that maybe are happening to us. Honestly, again, similarly to me, you don't have that many 3rd lines. And your personality side, well, no, actually you have quite a few. I think you have 5. That's not too bad. Okay, let's talk about being quadrite and the being and sharing. The best quote for the quadrites is, do without doing and the doing gets done. Do without doing and the doing gets done. So do without doing really means, I want to say, like, a living existentially, which is not to be confused with living spontaneously as an emotional person, but living with a presence, living with an awareness of the now, being in the now. I'm curious what kind of stories you have to share. And again, even just saying stories, I'm like, ugh, like labeling what you have to share does not feel good. I have not grabbed what it is that you have to share. And you have a lot of potential vocal definition. You have 5 hanging gates, but then you also have 2 gates from the ajna pointing to the throat. So it's just going to be very easy to turn your throat on. Like, very easy. Have there been any negative effects of how easy it is to turn your throat on? Have you either been suppressing your voice or using someone else's voice, which is a weird thing to say, but like, what do you sound like when you talk? What's the difference between hearing, like, actually you expressing yourself versus other people's stories coming out of you, mimicking or muting? Or is there a lot of clarity on what your voice actually sounds like? And has there been a bigger connection to your voice, again, since the channel of transitoriness has been on, because there is a different power to the voice right now? Are you feeling stronger in your voice in any way? I also think it's interesting that you say, like, gives me hope that there's a more peaceful chapter coming. You have the hope, disappointment, crash wave, plus with transitoriness on right now. Transitoriness is a manifestor channel. The manifestor channel is going to have anger peace duality in it. It's like, I really hope this works out. Otherwise, I'm going to be pretty pissed off if I'm disappointed again. Oh, that's like the same, it's the same thing, but it's kind of like the flip side. I'm going to be pissed off if I got to be disappointed again. I just want to sit with that for a second. What do you do when you're pissed off? Like, is it healthy? Does it motivate you? Do you self-sabotage? Do you cry a whole bunch? Do you... Like, what happens when you do get really angry, when you do get really disappointed, when you do get really let down? I don't want to be any type of, like, you know, I'm not trying to bring any negativity into this, but should this wave crash, and crash in a way that's not what you're expecting, what do you typically do when you're very upset about something? And is there any way to mitigate that or prepare for that, or, I don't know, fuck, double down on it, really anchor into it? How can I generate more money by just being myself? The answer that's popped into my head is always just start sharing. I do really want you to pay attention to that inner guidance. I also am curious about, how can I generate more than enough? Why do you need more than enough? Do I want more than enough? Do I need more than enough? I think the more challenging question here is, like, what is enough? I don't know if I need more. I don't want less than enough. Like, obviously I don't want less than enough. But, like, what does enough mean? And okay, so this is fantastic, because the sacral question is knowing when enough's enough. And I mean the sacral question, not the sacral being. The sacral being question is, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Sacral center question is knowing when enough is enough. Knowing when enough is enough. So then I have the question of, what do you need? Which might be really hard to answer as an innocence person. We're sometimes not very aware of our needs. Let's say you need your own little world. You need to be able to witness. And witnessing is very different for you because you're quad right. Like, yeah, I'm a 6th-line body who watches. Yes, I have innocence motivation, who's an observer. But you also have the quad right variable configuration, which means a passive observer body. You're a big watcher. Watching, watching, watching. More than enough. What is enough? If you had enough, what would you have? I don't want you to generate more than enough. Unless, in a way here, we're talking about energetic surplus or energetic overflow. That feels good. More than enough money is stupid. And I'm not trying to say that your want is stupid or anything like that. I mean, like, in general, anybody needing more than enough is what causes scarcity in everybody else. So what if you just had enough? What if you always had enough? If we all always had enough, none of us would need more than enough. So what is enough? Okay, what is enough? Is it enough for you to sleep well every night? Is it enough for you to feel like you have someone to turn to when you need connection, communion, engagement, or contact from someone else? Is it enough that you have the freedom to move your physical body in ways that feel good for you? Is it enough that you have access to the food that you crave on a day-to-day basis? What do you need? Like, what do you actually need? And curiously, how many of those needs are already being met? And which ones aren't? If what keeps popping in is just start sharing, of all the things that you said in your intake form that I'm the most curious about is, what is the region of your childhood dreams? This is curious to me. Where are you going? I'm like, where are your childhood dreams? Where are my childhood dreams? Where do I want to go? Where did you go? What's your adventure like? What's it going to be like? Why do you want to go there? Is it because, like, your vision showed you? Is it because you just, like, the markets are calling you? Is it because you think that the best food is going to be there? Is it because it makes you think of a story that you read when you were a little kid? Like, is it just because you know you belong there? Like, what is this place? That's the first thing I'm curious about. Also, I'm going to point out that the first thing I was curious about was, like, an uplifting, expansive, optimistic, hopeful, innocent thing. The next thing I was the most interested in is the last 6 years have been the hardest of my life, and I'm moving away from a toxic situation. I'm like, do tell. What happened? Why was it toxic? Why were you stuck there? Why were you in that relationship? How did you know it was over? What did you learn? What would you never do again? Why are you trying to move so far away? Like, I have so many questions about this. Third line experience. I'm curious to know, like, what did you trial and error and what did you learn the hard way? You've got a 28.6 in your design Earth. 28.6 is risky and blaze of glory. Like, this is someone who, and like unconscious and an undefined spleen. I'm so curious about what it's like when this quality expresses itself in you and how this quality has shifted as you've moved from, I mean, you've always been the 28.6, but it's experienced in the third line phase for the early part of life. What was it like to move from a 28.3 to a 28.6 in an undefined, unconscious center? I'm also curious about being quad right and how that changes what you want to take in or not. What are the things that you really like to absorb, and what do you have an aversion to absorbing? Are there types of themes, contents, sounds, visuals? Like, are there things that you have a no, like a strong no for? Are there things that you have deep yeses for? If I could give you access to consume whatever, whenever, and you didn't have to make money, you just had to go around responding only to what felt good and, like, emitting your nice satisfied frequency of absorbing and observing and absorbing. Like, what if the life for you has a lot to do with watching, reflecting, becoming aware, sharing, expressing? What if you don't have to do that much to have what you need? What if you're very close already to doing enough? What if you're very close already to having enough? When you say have more than enough, are you really just saying you don't want to have fear and you don't want to have stress? Are you saying that you don't want to be left wanting? What are you trying to control by having more than enough? You've been training as a healing coach for the last 5 years, and yet the last 6 years have been the hardest of your life. I'm going to venture to say that the last 6 years have been really hard because you have been going through an education that has pointed out things that have been less than ideal in your life, and you're having to confront those things and do something about it. And it's probably taken you a couple of years to figure out what to do about it or how to make a change. There's a really good chance that your work taking off for you is significantly tied into you taking off for you, if that makes sense. You investing in you is the way to get other people to invest in you. I also want to acknowledge that I think you're going to have a pretty difficult time making content. It's a common thing for quad rights because they tend to blame themselves for struggling with the executive functioning of actually creating and putting out the work. But it usually starts with the initial struggle of like, what am I supposed to talk about? How am I supposed to express this? Like, where do I start? So have conversations with other people. Also, like, talk out loud to yourself, transcript, and read yourself back. You'd be amazed at how many brilliant things come out of you, probably. Or maybe not. Honestly, you probably wouldn't be amazed. You're probably just amazed that there's like a methodology to catch these things. You can message me if you want to talk a little bit more about support for quad right content. And I don't mean to work with me. I just mean I have different ideas about it that maybe aren't relevant to put into this reading because, well, you know what? I'm only 23 minutes in so far. Unedited. You need the jump off point. You're looking to get a lot of things started right now. You're shifting things, starting new things. It's not like starting it for the first time. It's more like, I really want to like get this going, like launch this, get this off the ground. I want my resources to come in. You want to be able to really take care of yourself and give yourself the kind of life that feels comfortable and peaceful. And I mean, yeah, thumbs up. I guess ultimately healing. Who do you talk to? When I go back to the question of like, do you have someone to engage with, connect with, communicate with, that you feel good with? Who are these people? Who talks to you about the things that you actually like to talk about? Number one, who talks to you? Do you have any friends from this somatic trauma training? Do you got co-people? Do you like them? You don't have a lot going on for 4 stuff in you. So there's a chance that you might struggle a bit with things that feel network related or connected to others related. Honestly, you might feel pretty freaking lonely. That's my concern. Do you have the right people to talk to you, to pull information out of you, to remind you about all the great awarenesses that you have that your clients will need from you? Who gets you started telling all of your good stories? So I think maybe that's the conundrum. You're hearing like, just start sharing, but then you hit this wall of like, share what and how and when and with who. And it's not about so much like needing to define those things for yourself. It's about getting consistent engagement from the outer world that brings those things out of you. However, if you gotta be alone, if you have to be alone and you gotta try and express yourself, let's just use an idea that the gates of the throat center could be used as jump off points for how you might want to start a sentence. So with gate 56, maybe like, okay, I believe ... fill in the blank. Gate 35, I feel ... fill in the blank. Gate 12, I could try ... fill in the blank. Gate 45, oh, sorry, you don't have gate 45. I'm just carrying on through all the throat gates now. 31, oh, 31. It's like I could lead. I could guide. I could instruct. For your gate 16, these skills, dot, 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 this information, dot, 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 like, if I go through the throat gates of what you might want to be expressing, what are your beliefs? What are your feelings? What are you open to trying? What are you learning about or being educated in? What kind of skills and education from other people are you looking up to? Use that stuff to kind of like get your throat spinning, get it going. I could also ask things like, what were you really hopeful for that you ended up being really disappointed by? That's a great recognition channel conversation to get you to open up about things. We could also talk about channel of concentration. So we've got this deep focus and this deep need to sit still. So then I might ask the question of, when you're really in a process, what do you need in order to help you get through it? What kind of support do you need to maintain it? Do you lose anything when you're in like a deep focus tunnel of some type? And it's weird to say deep focus tunnel because it sounds kind of left in nature. Having channel of concentration and then being quad right is kind of, it's interesting to look at because it challenges the idea of what focus is. But I think the idea that you would get sucked into deep attentive times that might really deplete you is something that you should pay attention to. Like, you know, if you get really into a project, like, are you forgetting to make yourself food, and are you not prioritizing showering and, you know, stretching and stuff like that? Like, are you still taking care of yourself? And if you feel unable to, are you asking for help or support from anybody? And I feel like if you've just left a challenging relationship or you were financially maybe enmeshed with somebody, asking for support might be a very uncomfortable thing for you to do, but it also might be a part of your healing process. Okay, I think I'm feeling pretty good about this one. Good luck with your move. On to the next.